Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Reformasya Sakis. I am student of English Education Department, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education at Universitas Majalengka, and I am going to explain about the translation methods analysis Indonesian folklore Malin Kundang based on students' work. That's my paper. That's my title. There are 3 chapters in this. The first is introduction. In these introductions, there are background of study, research question, research objectives, and significance of study. This background of study is about how language can be the best solution as the media of communication process, how we connected each other by using language. So that's why I choose language as the best medium of communication process. The language can be wider too when we use the international language, especially between Indonesian to English as the international language. But to make the language changes running well, we need translation. But in Indonesia, people still face or found their difficulties or problems on translating the language. So that's why I choose this topic. In the research questions, I have 3 questions. It is about the methods that students used in translating. And the second is the mostly methods that used by students in translation process. And the last is how the steps taken by students in translation process. It comes to the purpose of the study. There are 3 points also, because these 3 can be the answer from the research questions. There is significance of study. There are theoretically and practically. The next is the chapter 2, literature review. There is the definition of translation, function of translation, process of translation, procedure of translation, translation methods, translator, folklore, the previous relevant research, and novelty. The first is the definition of translation. I conclude that translation is the process of change from one language as source language to the other language as target language, whether in spoken or written form, with considering the text equality. In function of translation, there are 4 functions. Basically, these functions may be called normative or at least transcultural. To place it more carefully, while the verbal or non-verbal markers used to define them are determined by particular cultural values, customs, preferences, or etc. There are 4 functions of translation: referential function, expressive function, appellative function, pathetic function. If you want to read the explanation, just pause this part. The second is process of translation. According to Newmark, Theory of Newmark in 1988 in page 19. The Newmark offers 4 types of process translation. The first is the SL text level, referential level, the cohesive level, and the level of naturalness. The explanation are on my paper. The second is procedure of translation. There are 10 procedures. The first is translation, borrowing, literal, transposition, modulation, adaptation, omission, adding, subtraction, and expanded. You can pause in this part if you want to see the example of each of them. Come to the next part is about translation methods, the main point of this paper, and it comes from the Theory of Newmark in his book in 1988. There are 8 methods of translation: word for word translation, literal translation, faithful translation, semantic translation, adaptation, free translation, idiomatic translation, and the last is communicative translation. This is explained in my paper. The next is translator. We can see the definition of translator in this part, so you can pause in this part if you want to see the explanation of translator. And the next is folklore. Folklore is the product of a special form of verbal art, according to Vladimir. And there Dhananjaya also that define the folklore. This is the review studies that I had. There are 5 review studies. It can be related to my paper, but I still found the novelty of my paper. The last chapter is research methodology. This study covers research design, search of data, research participant sampling, and data collection. I use descriptive qualitative method for the research designs, and the search of data is taken by the text of Indonesian folklore with title Malin Kundang from West Sumatra. Okay, and the research participants, I use the participants of this research is from the English students in one of university in Majalengka. So for sampling, I use purposive sampling. So the next in collecting the data, I can choose the representative of the students. So that's why I choose purposive sampling. And the data collection, I use questionnaire and interview. That's all about my 1, 2, 3 chapters in my paper. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.